Yeah. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the ninth episode of The Mind Matters. In this episode, I have a guest who is all the way from Europe. She lives in Portugal, and Michele and I have been met in our professional lives and still continue to work together. And just when we were just discussing in one of our calls, she told me that she's been taking therapy for quite some time now. Therapy is not just a phase thing for her, but has become a routine for her. I was so surprised, and it felt amazing that how someone has inculcated therapy as a part of their life, not just for if there's an issue, it comes up. So that is when I requested Michele to be as a guest and share her experience with therapy, how she has coped up with all the mental health problems or issues that come up or in general in life, and then how she is maximizing using therapy as a daily routine. So thank you, Michele, for accepting my invite first and coming on the podcast to share your experience.
Thank you, Saurabh, for inviting me. Like I said, I'm a little bit nervous to talk about, but I'm excited as well. I think we
Yes. Okay.
discuss a lot of yes.
We'll get there. It's just a normal conversation that we are having, a office call, which is just extended and we're speaking about life. Okay. To begin with, Michele, if you can tell me more about just in general your life, what do you do, how life has turned out, and then we can get more into the therapy aspect of it. Just a bit of a background about yourself.
So I'm Michele. I'm 31 years old. I was born in Brazil, in Salvador specifically, but I've been living in Europe, in Portugal, for the last about 8 years of my life. I came to university, and I left once, and then I came back and never left again. So most of my adult life I have been living here. I'm a project manager for an American company. That's how I met you. And yeah, this is currently what I'm doing is project management at my company.
Michele has been one of most hardworking persons that I've met with from our daily lives, and the way that she grasps things and like is like ready to take on any challenge. I think therapy helps you a lot in those sense and like maximizing your potential as well.
I think so too. And thank you. That's a very nice compliment.
Okay, so let's get to the topic of therapy. If you can tell me about how did you get into therapy in the first place and how has the journey been?
Yeah. So essentially, I got into therapy when I was 9 years old, and that was like my mom's doing. At the time, I had sort of like, and I'm very grateful. Like, I was thinking today, like, I'm very grateful that my mom didn't like beat me up to correct me, and instead, like, was open enough to, seek for help and put me in therapy. Because I do not come from like a rich family or nothing like this, like my mom wasn't like a particularly super educated person. I think it was really kind of like a strike of luck that at the time I was having these issues, I was mostly like struggling with eating disorders, and also like um, I was having some behaviors, like very erratic behaviors. Some of them were normal for a child, but some of them kind of like if I grew up with them, they would become a huge problem.
Hmm.
And at the time, my mom was working at a medical center, and she ended up befriending a person who was a child therapist. And essentially, because of the friendship, my mom kind of shared what was going on with me. And she said, like, just bring her and I can help you with that. So that was kind of my first encounter with therapy. I was there for like a year and a half and 2 years. And I feel like it was an amazing first encounter because now, like looking back at the time, obviously I didn't realize, but looking back, like that woman saved my life. Like I wouldn't be who I am without her. Like she did an amazing job. Like a lot of those issues, I still struggle with them from time to time, but like definitely like changed my life. It definitely gave me, how can I say, it gave me the tools that I needed to grow up
Hmm.
and kind of like manage those feelings. Because I think like, I don't know if we are going to talk about that right now, but like now I realize that the eating disorder, for example, it had a lot to do with control and attention. Like I was a child who wanted a lot of attention and was not getting the attention that I understood that I needed.
Hmm.
So it was a lot about sort of if I didn't eat, then my grandma would be desperate, and then she would call my father to talk to me, and I was essentially raised by my grandma because my parents had me at a very, very young age, and my grandma was like a vital part of my life. So it was a lot about sort of like this. It was a cry for help, essentially, and no one knew how to deal with it. And I think the therapist realized that straight away and sort of like helped my mom navigate that as well. Like she had sessions with my grandmother, she had the sessions with my father, with my mom. So I think it helped like a lot on my development. Yeah.
How did you feel at first when, as a 9-year-old, like, were you a bit rebellious at first that, "Oh, no, I don't want to do this," or like, what is this about? Or were you more so accepting about it?
I think I didn't realize what it was at first.
Mm.
For me, I would go once a week to this place where there was a bunch of toys. It's like I used to play the game of life and Monopoly, and like we used to play board games. And at some point, now thinking back, I think I'm thinking like there was a reason for this, but we were doing like ceramics of toys of like making a family, for example, and making a house. And at the end, like I could take home and play with it. So to me, it was fun. Like I think the idea of child therapy is sort of like distracting you enough that you just kind of like talk things out. So for me, like honestly, it was a blast. I loved it, and I was sad when it was done. Actually,
That, for context, that one part of therapy when you began, that went for like 1.5, 2 years, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, almost 2 years.
2 years, okay. And it was not just about therapy for you, but you said that it was therapy for your mom. Like there were sessions with your mom. I don't know. I feel I've never heard about something like this, but is this called like family therapy, or is there a term to it?
I'm not sure because like it wasn't like she was doing a therapy session with my mom. She was kind of like having sessions with my mom to kind of like convey what was going on because I was a child, and also the privacy is a little bit, she had to talk to my parents and the people responsible for me about what was going on. So it was a lot of like my mom wasn't going there every week to do therapy about herself, but mostly my therapist was talking to my mom about what she saw and
Hmm.
ways to kind of deal with it, because she couldn't tell that to me, like I was a child that I wouldn't know how to manage those tools. So I think in a way like she was giving the tools to my family instead of me to kind of manage those behaviors essentially.
It's amazing. Like, and then the fact that it happened at 9, when it was like, I feel that is the beginning of where like your environment starts affecting you and things start manifesting in your brain. And I feel that was the perfect moment to begin it and then mitigate or resolve it right at the root before like that entire big tree grew out of it with like more issues.
Yeah, I
So,
think so too. I think like it was the perfect time, and it really changed my life, at that point.
okay, what do you think would have happened had that had you not met that therapist? No therapy would have happened. Like, if you think about it, with therapy things became so much better, but what if this was not like your mom worked at some different place, you would you you would not have done therapy, like, just what do you think would have happened?
Yeah, like I've actually thought about this a little bit,
Yeah.
and like I don't know. I think I would be a very different person.
Hmm.
I always think like I know that's crazy, but I always think like I would develop some like drug addiction or something. Like I always think that. I don't know why. I think like I think my energy, like I have very kind of like controlling energy, but also like I don't know. I think it had a lot. Like I learned to get attention by self-destructing because, like, at the end of the day, like not eating for 12 hours. Sometimes I would eat the whole day. It was very self-destructive. Like it wasn't nice for me. And I think like the part of the control that I think it had to do is that my environment growing up was very chaotic. My parents were very young. They didn't know how to be parents. Which is fine. And my grandmother was a very kind of difficult person. Like she wasn't the archetype of like a sweet mother, sweet grandmother. She was like difficult. And I feel like I felt so out of control of everything. Like my whole life was kind of happening to me, that the eating was sort of like something that I could control, like I just wouldn't open my mouth and I wouldn't put food inside. So I think it had a lot to do with those two things. It was a lot about this sense of control, and also this, I knew that it would be the easiest way to get attention. So I think if I had continued with this pattern, like I don't know where it would take me. I don't think it would take me into like a good path in life. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Therapy is a blessing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
It
in
just
my life, it has been for sure.
it taps into those elements where, like, who would have thought that like eating disorder or those tie back to that, like that thought in your head where you were like attention or control or anything, like that only comes up when it's like you when the therapist digs deep and then tries to understand like your experiences, how the environment was. So yeah, amazing. Okay, the next question that I have for you is, then you've been taking therapy, so like since 9 years, and then you've done therapy multiple times, once in your teenage, I think once in your 20s, early 20s, and now you in your starting like early late 20s you've been doing it. How has the why I want to take therapy changed for you in those different phases of life? If you can just tell me like what happened in teenage, early 20s.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I think like as any teenager, I wasn't consistent with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't. I was kind of like going, and then I didn't like the therapist, and then I would try to find a new one. But I didn't do like extensive therapy during my teenage years. But then when I was 21, I came to Portugal at 18 to go to college the first time, and I was here for 3 years. And it was like the most miserable 3 years of my life. Like I was extremely depressed, extremely, like it was very difficult. I think I came here very young as well. I think 18 I wasn't ready to kind of
Mm.
like go to a different country and sort of like be by myself. So at 21, I remember at some point, like I call my father and I say like, look, I need to go back. Like I need structure. I need to be with my family so I can deal with some stuff that are coming up now, and I don't know how to work them. Like I'm very depressed. I don't feel good, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to graduate if I continue to like that. So again, I was very lucky that my father was understand, like he understood that, and he allowed me to go back. And when I went back, I was 21. That's when I started therapy, and I had a very specific goal, which was, look, I have a lot of unresolved trauma and triggers that I need to take care of them because they are not allowing me to grow. They are not allowing me to live the life that I want to live. So that therapy was very, very good. I was with him for like 3 years, I think, was sort of like a lot of time. And I remember as well one point which was very, very important to me was that, like, I had never fallen in love up to that point. I had never like had a boyfriend or had a relationship really, because I was so closed off. Like I just didn't allow myself to have anyone close. And when I was there for 1 year and a half, I had my first boyfriend. So I think it really worked out because I was able to kind of like allow myself
Opened up. Yeah.
myself back, like, so honestly, like every time I go to therapy, I get results from it. And I'm not sure if it's the therapist or if it's like because I go there already kind of like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. Right.
I kind of like I was talking to my therapist now about how because he was saying like you always try to be the perfect patient, the patient who makes progress. And it's like and that's also something that I deal with at therapy, like this need to always kind of like, no, I'm perfect, I'm gonna,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I always get results with therapies. I think it's like that's my experience with it. But then what's funny about this therapist is that I stayed there until I was 24, more or less. And then during that time, like I had my first boyfriend, I broke up, and I met my current husband doing this therapy. And at some point, like I decided to come back to Portugal with my now husband to kind of pick up college again, because I was like, I have to graduate. Like I left this unfinished and I have to finish it. So that's why I came back to Portugal to finish university. And at the end of the day, I don't work with what I graduate, but for me it was like I need to graduate, like I need to do this. Um and yeah, it's like I tried to go back to the same therapist when I was 26, and it was like so crazy because I didn't click with him. I was there for like a month and a half, more or less. And it's just like, it wasn't the same. Like, I think because I was in a different place in my life, like,
Hmm.
he just wasn't what I needed anymore. So there is that as well with therapies. Like, is the moment, is the person. You have to click with your therapist. Otherwise, like, you won't be able to do it. But then I think the question is sort of like how.
Why did you like take up therapy and after that, like, so the I think the one that you're talking about when you were 21 is more of like you changing countries, like living by yourself and all those. I feel this has also happened with me, where all that stuff which I've never consciously thought about, because you're in that family environment, everything is happening, you don't get a chance to like introspect about like. But when you're living alone, you get so much time to yourself, and then everything comes to the surface and it's like boom,
Mhm.
like this is that. So I think when you were 21, that was that. Why did you choose to then go back to therapy when you were like, when you came to Portugal again, like when you were 26, 27?
Yeah, essentially at 27, I had other challenges in my life. I think like I was feeling very like I didn't have a direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And then again, like there's always like the childhood traumas and stuff that always like they always come back. It's like I don't think there is a way to shut off that completely. So I was also like on the verge of getting married at the time. So honestly, like my relationship isn't like so much of a topic in therapy. It's more like it's very about me. Like I'm very self-centered in the sense that like I go to therapy because like there's some weird stuff going on in my head. I needed to help me figure that out. And I think while at 21 it was sort of like I need to grow up, and those things are not allowing me to. Like I need to feel happy and I need to be able to live a normal life. I think at 27, it was more about what else can I do with this life? Like I already can do stuff, but like, how do I enjoy stuff? How do I actually like go after things that I want? And how do I find out what it is that I want? How do I figure out it was kind of
Yeah,
like
I
questions.
yeah, it's I think it was the quarter life crisis which kind of hits you maybe a year or two late or something, I don't know, because it's around that time when it hits and you're like, oh, where is my life heading to? Like once you finish studying and then you're like maybe in a job or you're fine in that process, and then you start a job and then you're like, oh, now life is just about this, what next? I get it. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Well, for me, it was mostly also funny enough, like, I, because I had been living here in Portugal for so long, I sort of like, I have friends here, but it's sort of, I already lived like an adult life here.
Hmm.
And then actually what triggered me to go back to therapy was a friend from Salvador, from back home, which I know her since I'm 16 years old. And we went through life together in a very kind of like important phase. And she came to live here. And I don't know if it was her presence, if it was like kind of being reminded of me as a teenager, like something, like she triggered something in me. And I'm very grateful she did, because that was kind of like the push that I needed to go back to therapy. I was like, okay, I have to deal with that so I can be a better friend, so I can be, because I was very like unhappy again. I wasn't as unhappy as 21, but I feel like I was still unhappy with how I was living my life. And that was preventing me from being like a good partner and being a good friend, and kind of being the version of me that I know I can be. Like she was the one who pushed without knowing, obviously, she was the one who pushed me into going back to therapy at
Going.
that age.
Is this that you have that strive for being the best version of yourself, which I'm like gathering for from what you're saying, like today, am I the best version of myself? If not, what is stopping me? Okay, I'll take that thing up and then speak in therapy. And then so it's so is it more of like every time you go to a therapy session now, is there like a specific goal that you think about, or like any specific thing that you kind of think of tackling, or is it more of like you just go into the session, it's an open-ended conversation, and then you kind of find out? So like how is that right now for you?
It's both. It's a little bit of both. For example, since I am with this therapy for 3 years now, every beginning of the year we kind of talk it out about what are our goals for this year. Like, what do I want to tackle? How am I feeling? Etc. Like right now at this very moment, and he does something which I really like, which is he always tries to space hard conversations. Like if we had a very heavy session today, the next session is going to be lighter, where we're going to talk about kind of more lighter things. So it's not, so also therapy doesn't become this place where I go to just be sad, to just kind of like deal with the hard things. So sometimes we really just talk about, like, I don't know, about history, we talk about many different things.
Mm.
Like I send him sites where I'm buying things that I like, and I show him, like, we talk about traveling with, like he's sort of like, I know he's not my friend and he shouldn't be, but sometimes we have conversations where it's kind of like more friendship territory. But then essentially now what we are working towards is not unlearning behavior, because I don't think you can unlearn a behavior. He told me something which like resonated with me a lot, which is like, you cannot unlearn how to ride a bike, but you can choose not to get on the bike. So it's kind of like, that's what we are working on, is that I have like, I still struggle sometimes with the eating disorder. Like it doesn't get as bad, but sometimes I'm very stressed. Like it triggers exactly that, this sort of like, okay, I cannot control anything around me, so I can control this. And I then end up like, going back to it. But I understand why Michele at 9 years old was doing, but Michele at 31 doesn't have to.
Right.
So essentially, this is what I'm working on with him, is like, how do I not give in to those triggers? How do I not behave that way? Like, how can I do that? So right now, that's our goal. It's like, it's kind of dealing with that.
So from your like so many years of therapy, Michelle, are there any specific, for example, what you said right now, being mindful of like not indulge, you cannot unlearn, but you can control if you want to give in or like be mindful and stop yourself. Any more strategies or tactics that you've learned from therapy which you use in your daily life or like in your normal life right now?
Yeah, I think it's really about sort of like recognizing the patterns as well. Like I do that a lot. When I'm seeing like, oh, it's starting, and I recognize it, I kind of like have to be intentional about it, about stopping it. Because if I let it, it's gone. Because that's the crazy thing about being human, is that we find comfort in discomfort. We sometimes like hurt ourselves because it's comfortable, because it's what we used to. So it's kind of like, it has to be intentional. It has to be sort of like, I'm not gonna do that because I don't need to do this. It's gonna bring me comfort. Like it doesn't. Like I was thinking about this, because obviously the eating disorder is more difficult to deal with, because sometimes like now people call intermittent fasting, right? So I guess I can relabel it.
Now it's a trend.
Public on purpose. So I guess sometimes I really think about like, okay, it's intermittent fasting, I can eat now and it's gonna be fine. But like one thing that I have as well from like childhood is that I'm very reactive. And I have to also like control that, because sometimes you do have to defend yourself and stand your ground, but sometimes it's like you have to know when to retreat. And because I'm reactive, my first instinct is to like, I'm gonna fight, etc. So I think like right now, for example, my father is here in Portugal, he came to visit. He's gonna be here for 3 months, you know. And we had a very rocky relationship when I was a teenager. Sorry for my cat here. And I was like looking back at it, like I was very disrespectful to him. At some points, I was very kind of like I had a very tumultuous relationship with him. And sometimes we are together, you know, and I'm older now. And he says something that like teenage me would like go off on him for that, you know, because like you're hypocritical or you're saying something ignorant, you know. And now I see myself thinking like the comment is here, you know, but I stop myself and I'm thinking like, if I say this comment, what that will bring me, you know, like we're gonna fight, it's gonna be a horrible, like I'm gonna exhaust myself as well because all this fighting is tiring, you know. So like what do I gain from doing that? What do I gain from doing this comment? So at that moment I stop myself and I don't say it and I ignore it and I move on, you know. So I think this comes from a lot of therapy,
Hmm.
this kind of control of like, and that's the tricky part, is that the thought is there, you know. It's not like I changed, you know. It's still there, it still comes, it's still like it's lurking in the shadows, you know. Like I can be that Michele whenever I want, but I choose not to, you know. And it's a process, it's difficult,
Yeah.
but it's rewarding as well, you know. Like I feel much better when I make that intentional choice of not doing that.
I can definitely relate to it because, like, when you are saying all of this, this is something that I also recognize in my life because there are some things in my life where, like, maybe therapy has helped me a lot. And now I'm like, that thought comes to my mind, but I'm like, is it gonna bring any good to me? That is something which I now do, like, involuntarily. It happens like subconsciously, but now that you are saying it, it is also taking me back to like, this is because of therapy that it is changing in me. So it's like an epiphany moment that I had right now while I was listening to you.
Yeah, because that's the thing, like therapy won't change you, but it's gonna give you the tools so you can make changes, you know? And I feel like a lot of people think that you're gonna go to therapy and then the therapist is gonna tell all your is gonna make a list of all your problems and
Mm.
someday you're gonna magically change, and that's not how it is, you know? It's hard work, and I feel like that's why people don't want to do it, and I respect that. But it's rewarding as well, you know? I'm very happy with my experience.
I feel it's more about how skillfully you manage those emotions, thoughts, rather than how you eliminate those, or like you become, like, you cannot ever become ideal, but you can choose not to be like, choose not to become that non-ideal person who would do that irrationally, or like very spontaneously without thinking.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of, it's like personally, like I like the intentionality of it, you know.
Hmm.
Because it's a choice. You are making that choice for yourself, and I feel like life. That's what life is about. Life is about choices, you know. So you're making choices for yourself, sometimes for others as well. But like I personally really enjoy having this choice, you know, because before I didn't have it. Like the thought would come and I would just blurt it out and start like a whole thing, and at the end I would be like, why did this happen? Like I feel horrible. The person who I had this intercation with feel horrible. Like, what was the point of it, you know? And now I have the choice of, yeah, when it's necessary, I can stand my ground and defend myself. But if it's not necessary, then there's no need to do it, you know? Um,
We've talked about everything that has worked right in therapy and how it has changed, but let's also speak about, I feel, since you have done therapy for so many years, there possibly would have been a phase of therapy where you might have felt that therapy is not working for me, or like, is it even worth the effort, or like, did that thought ever occur to you?
yeah, yeah. Like when I said at 21, I was with this therapist and he helped me a lot. And then when I went back to him at 26, like it wasn't the same, you know? I thought like, oh, I'll just go back to my old therapist because I really liked him and he helped me a lot. And then I came back to him like with other questions, with other issues, and it just really wasn't like I couldn't. I tried for like 2 months almost, and it's just like it didn't click for me. Like it didn't happen, you know? And even at my current therapy right now, at some points I'm like maybe I should give a break, you know, like maybe, but then I'm like, no, I need this maintenance work. So I kind of like go back. But I have a friend that she also has a lot of experience with therapy. You know, she has been doing therapy for a long time. And she told me something that I never thought about. She said to me that sometimes, like, you have to change therapists, you know, because, like, your therapist is still a person. He gets too familiar with you. And then sometimes, like, he might excuse some behaviors, or he might, like, not really push you into doing what you need to do, you know? And I hope that doesn't come with my therapist currently, because I really like him. But sometimes like I actually have to tell him, like, we talk about something and he kind of excuses a behavior, which I'm like, no, that's not okay. Like, you know, because he already likes me. He has already like such a familiarity with me. So like, for example, like I've been like sleeping very badly lately, and then he's like, oh, but what's happening? Are you stressed? And I'm like, I'm always going to be stressed, you know, like that's not an excuse to sleep bad, you know. Life is always going to throw stuff at you. You
Yeah,
cannot like, keep using that
exactly.
as excuse to bad behavior, you know. So sometimes I have to tell him that, you know, but it's okay. Like it's good because um it's kind of like he already has a little bit of a bias towards me. So we kind of like doing therapy together in a way.
So is it now, do you like do therapy on a weekly basis, bikely? Okay, it's on a weekly basis. Got it. How did, like, is there a particular life transition phase that you had? For example, moving countries, maybe getting married, or like career change, like where therapy specifically helped you?
Yeah, I think like I said, like it helped me with relationships a lot. Not only romantic relationships, but really like friendships as well. It helped me. I think it helps me cope with the stress of the environment I'm in professionally. Like, you know, this, like I work in a very like high stress, high, like everything has to be
Hot
fast,
fast.
fast, fast, fast,
Yes.
fast, you know? So I think, and that's what I'm saying about maintenance. You know, I feel like doing therapy weekly for me is necessary because I have to do this maintenance. You know, some weeks I'm okay, some weeks like I just get into the groove and everything's good, but some weeks like I feel the toll of that. You know,
Hmm.
so it's good to have my therapist on the back burner and talk about those things. So I feel like therapy has helped me a lot professionally. It's like it's almost an investment in my career in a way. That's how I like to think about it. But it also has been like an investment in my relationships. It has been, like I said, when I started this therapy that I am right now, I was on the verge of getting married, you know? So it was very good as well, because despite I was already living with my now husband for a long time, but I think it helped me make that transition and sort of like falling into this like, oh, I'm a married woman now, you know. I felt very like adult. So I think therapy has helped me a lot in a lot of transitions in my life.
Have Now let's talk about Michele as being the advocate of therapy, because I know, like,
The what?
an advocate for therapy.
Ah,
Have you encouraged anyone in your surrounding, your loved ones, or anyone to take up therapy, and how has that experience been for you? Because I've tried that. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it did not work for me, but I want to listen or like understand more about those moments where someone was hesitant to take therapy, and then maybe you convinced them, or like they kind of took up therapy. Because, yeah, opening that question to you.
yeah. I have a friend, for example, which she goes to the same therapist as me. So it's kind of like she also made that transition. It was exactly the friend that triggered me into going to therapy. Look at how things are crazy. Now she goes to the same therapist as me. But I think I had a huge role into my husband going into therapy, you know? Essentially, yeah, because I feel like when we were getting married, you know, we still had a couple questions which were unanswered, you know? And I wouldn't advise people to marry like this, but we still like we loved each other. We wanted to get married, but and thank God we were able to answer those questions.
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out with time. I feel like with my husband, like he's very different from me. Like I'm very reactive, and he's a very kind of like slow paced person. He's very calm, very kind of collected. But that is kind of like the surface level is that. But then inside, like there's a lot of repression. There's a lot of like feelings that he doesn't kind of talk about, or like
Yeah,
there's a lot of
it is suppressed inside,
yeah,
bottled up
yeah.
kind of a thing. Yeah.
So for me, what I talk to him about is that, look, like I'm super reactive, I'm super hot headed, and I'm doing therapy to take care of that because I don't want to be like that. Like I don't want to be that person. But I need you to also go to therapy because when when I do something to you, like, and you just sort of shut down and then punishes me for 3 months in a row, where you're kind of like treating me bad sometimes because you were upset about something I did 3 months ago, like that's not gonna work. I need you to be able to tell me like this hurt me. Don't talk to me like that. Um, like, or we can, because that's the thing. Like, I'm very open to communication,
Hmm.
even when I am mad. Like, if you kind of like stop me, I will listen to you. So it was very much like I need you to kind of like I need you to communicate with me. Otherwise, like I'm gonna eat you. Like I'm gonna like yeah, like I'm gonna eat you. You're gonna be unhappy. I'm gonna be unhappy, and we're gonna have a unhappy relationship because you're never gonna feel like you have a voice. You're never gonna feel heard because I'm always loud. So while I'm taking care of that, you need also to kind of learn how to use your voice so we can meet each other in the middle.
Perfect. Love that.
Yeah, it was very much like that, and I was pushing him to do therapy for like years. Like at the beginning, we used to fight because he was like, "I'm not going to therapy. This is ridiculous." Blah blah blah. My husband is Russian as well, so it's not like they are the most open people in the world. So I think he had this idea of like, this is bullshit. Like I'm not gonna go to therapy. But then something changed in him and he actually went to therapy. He was left. He was there for like 1.5 year, more or less. I continue and he stopped. But I was talking to him like even this week, I was like, I think you have to go back to therapy because he also has a high stress level job, and it gets to him sometimes. And I can help him, but I cannot do the work of a therapist. So,
Correct. Yeah.
but he actually like it for him also, he had a lot of benefits from it, like a lot, a lot.
I love the part about like how you said communication is very important when it comes to relationships, and it is often that we're not able to communicate because usually it is the same scenario where either one of the person is like very loud and like upcoming and it feels like they are dominating, and the other person, if it's not communicated well, then the other person is gonna feel like they are not being heard or like they're just silent at the relationship. So I feel you taking up therapy has also probably could have helped you to speak up about like I want you to communicate with me
Mhm.
because this is important and we have to meet each other in the middle. So
Yeah, it's like I tell people like my only ambition is life to be happy. I
yeah.
feel like I wasn't happy for so long.
Mm.
Like I like happiness is a non-negotiable for me. And I felt like if he didn't take care of that, like we would, like enter into this dynamic that we see in media all the time where like the wife is like this kind of like this horrible person that doesn't let the men do what they want and they're
Yeah.
always kind of like like I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it's like there's no way I'm doing that. Like you're gonna have to learn how to speak up and we're gonna have to like I can compromise. I just need to tell me what to compromise on.
Mm.
So it was very much like I just didn't want to be in a happy marriage. I feel like sometimes people just accept
Correct. Yeah.
happiness and it's like, no way. That's not me.
Even for me, I love this point because peace. Right now, for me, an ideal relationship is where I have peace because there's always so much going on in life. Or, like, since we work more in a startup environment, there's like so much pressure there, here, like with every other thing in life. Then, when you come back to that person, like that partner of yours, you need to feel peaceful, right? Like that calm and that happy feeling. That is the goal.
Yeah, you cannot fight in all fronts, you know? It's like one of them need to be like at peace, otherwise.
I want to understand more on the landscape of one Brazil, where you first took up therapy, and in Portugal, where you're also taking up therapy. How is the landscape around like people accepting therapy, or is it still like a taboo that is being considered? How is mental health looked at in general from the society standpoint?
Yeah, I think like me personally, I never felt a stigma regarding therapy. And I think we even talked about like maybe it has to do with me being a woman, you know, like people feel like women are more emotional. Like, of course, they need someone to talk to every week, you know. But I also think that therapy is a financial privilege, you know. It's like not everyone can sort of like have the luxury of going to therapy. So I feel like in Brazil, most people cannot afford it, you know, like even if they wanted to, even if they had the openness to, but it's just not an option at all. And then when I think about like my friends around me, like I have so many friends that go to therapy. Like I have a friend that she's in therapy with the same therapist for like almost 10 years, you know. So it's like I feel like it was so normal. Like we talk about our therapist, we talk about our therapy sessions. Like it's I'm very open about it. Like I said to you, like I said to my boss, like, oh, actually I'm gonna be late because I'm going to my therapy session, you know. So I'm extremely open about it. And I kind of like I never felt anything bad regarding it, you know. I feel like this is like in Portugal, I feel like there is also this thing which Portugal is compared to the rest of Europe is a very poor country, you know. People here are very kind of like old and kind of brutish. You know? And like my Portuguese friends, for example, one of them started therapy, but like I felt like she was like struggling to do it. It was almost like she didn't wanted to admit that she needed the help, you know. So I think here they have a little bit more of a stigma, especially because they are kind of like, no, we are strong. We are like this feels like therapy feels like a rich people thing, you know, like people who doesn't have anything else to do or something like
Yeah.
those. So, but I feel honestly in Brazil as well. I feel like a lot of people think that therapy is kind of like soft people stuff or something like this, you know, which is stupid. But yeah, I feel like there is this stigma. I just never felt it personally, you know. I
Got it.
don't feel.
Did your husband feel that? Has he shared with you anything like that? Because it's usually also considered like I've spoken about this on a different episode, but like men don't take therapy, men don't cry, men are strong. You don't shouldn't take that. So has he ever shared with you about something like that?
Yeah, like I think he told his father, for example, his father was a little bit like, "This stupid," you know. um, and he actually has a friend as well who was having like a lot of panic attacks, you know, which is like a physical manifestation that
Yeah.
need help.
Very.
And he just didn't want to do therapy because in his head it's like, this is bullshit, you know, like I'm not gonna waste my time. And so I think like for Dimitri is a very like chilled person.
Hmm.
I don't think he would care if people said like, "Oh," but he himself he had a problem with therapy at the beginning
Right.
as well. You know, he also kind of like, "I'm not gonna do therapy, this is stupid." But I feel like he definitely turned around. Like he saw the value and he saw the improvement in himself as well. Um, but I think he felt much more than I did for sure. Like for him, it was more of a struggle than it is for me.
What I feel is like when it comes to any developing nation, like for example, India, Brazil, Portugal, I feel they fall into that same bucket. The struggles that people have is also like to live up to like making a living is also something that people are working towards. And then in that context, if like us we have an opportunity to do it, it's there. Like we haven't gotten there yet where therapy is very mainstream. It's becoming mainstream now, but yeah, that is the goal of the podcast, to like it's not about like it's a luxury, it's not about it's like every physical manifestation which even might be like very legitimate in terms of like biology is manifesting from those thoughts which are subconsciously stuck into your head, which have come up probably from your childhood, teenage, any place, right? So it is you are a perfect example of like maximizing your potential with therapy, because it's not just a phase thing for you. You are doing it every it's more like going to the gym for the mind for
Mm-hmm.
you. Any special moment or any specific example that you have where your therapy has helped you in, like, since you are working at a startup, high paced, fast growth environment, any moment where like you are feeling very stressed out or anything, and then therapy changed that for you and you realize it, oh, this is because of my therapy, and then you feel that, oh, this is why I go to therapy, it's totally worth it moment.
No, yeah, like I remember one day specifically where I got into therapy and I just like ranted for an hour with my therapist. And I could see in his face he was like worried but sad at the same time. It was just like me ranting like blah 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 blah, blah. And but at the end of it, I kind of felt better. And I said like I kind of passed all my anger and all my feelings to him, and he had to be with that at the end of the session. And I was kind of empty. So there are moments because I feel like if I talk to Dimitri about it, it's possible that he's gonna like try to find solutions for me, and then we're gonna start arguing because I don't want solutions. I want to vent.
Yes, yeah.
But with my therapist, like I can just vent, like just take it out from my body and give it to someone else. And I've done that with him a few times, and it was good for me. I'm not sure if it was for him, but for me it was great. So there is a lot of that.
This is something which I've learned recently about, like, there are conversations when you converse with your loved ones or your ones to like just listen to them and console them, versus there is a separate conversation where you help them or like help them think rationally. So what I usually do is like, if I'm speaking with my partner, I'm like, do you want me to just listen to you, or do you want me to like help you out or like think rationally? Because I feel maybe is just how a man thinks, or like men think, is like, oh, we have to find a solution for this. We think of it like very logically, when in some cases you just have to hear it out, like just let things be as is, be there for your partner, and then just say that if they say, yeah, she's a bitch, you're like, oh yes, she is, yeah,
You
yeah,
have to
I'm on.
join in the hate
Yeah,
fighter.
yeah. You have to you have to just join in and be there, like, oh yeah, totally right. Yes, she is. Yeah, or like he is, or something like that. So yeah, that is that.
I feel like, yeah, this is sort of like men do that a lot, but I also do that sometimes.
Okay.
I feel like it's kind of like because we see someone we like kind of suffering, and our minds go
Yes.
straight into like,
Yes.
how can I remove that from them?
Make it bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I think it's a natural instinct mostly.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Okay. What advice would you give to someone, maybe a student, a teenager, a professional who wants to seek? They are on the verge, like they have that dilemma and they want to seek therapy but are very hesitant. What would your piece of advice be, either to like convince them or tell them, "Oh, you should totally go for it"?
I don't know what pieces of advice I would give, but I feel like whatever work you're doing, therapy is going to make it easier. And I think that's already kind of like, if there is an easier path to get where you want to go, you should take it. And because, like, of course, I think, like, in general, especially the generation before us, they see so much value in struggling. Like, it's almost like you have to struggle, otherwise it doesn't have meaning. It doesn't have value. And that's not true. You can take the easy path and still get to the same place. You can get help and still get to the same place, and it's gonna feel wonderful anyway. It's gonna have value. You're gonna feel better anyway. Sometimes it's really not about the journey, it's about the destination. And it's like, so I feel like asking for help, there's absolutely nothing wrong in asking for help.
Mm.
And we should do it more often, like this world is not supposed to be lived alone. So get all the help you can, essentially.
What you just said made me realize like we've glorified struggle in such a way that it's like if you don't struggle, you're not getting there or it's not gonna be worth it. But like whereas therapy is something which is a catalyst to make things faster, better, easier for you in the life. Maybe that is also a perspective that people need to change about it. Like you don't have to necessarily struggle about it and then get to that destination. Things can be much better with help. Yeah. And everybody needs help. Like
Yeah, exactly.
everybody needs a mentor, everybody needs help. Nobody is perfect. Love that. Yeah. Okay. Final question that I have for you is what would today's Michele uh, tell that 9-year old Michele who just before therapy, Michele, who had so many struggles, and if she's standing in front of you today?
I don't know. I would say to her that we did it. We did it our way, but we did it, and it was quite a journey. I feel like that Michelle had a lot of fears inside of her, had a lot of like feelings, that anger, a lot of anger as well, that she didn't understand where it was coming from or what. And like I have figured that out, and I did it for us, and everything's gonna be fine. We just need to kind of continue to strive to be better and to be happy. I think this is the main driver in my life, and I think it comes from her as well. She was so sad, she felt like so many horrible feelings of rejection and everything, but she also made me who I am, and we turned out okay. It's fine.
You ended amazing, not just okay. It was amazing. It's amazing. Like I love working with you. I love chatting with you, and you're also an inspiration where you make me feel that we have to keep getting better. Like there are moments where you like it's your environment which gives you energy as well, like the people you work with, the environment you're in, and you are definitely a person who gives more energy and like radiates that energy. So it
Thank you, Saurabh. Honestly, I really enjoy working with you as well. I feel like I learn a lot from you as well, like because you're so organized. You like I like how your mind works because I'm much more chaotic, and I like that you like checked everything, things that I don't, and it's like I really enjoy working with you as well. Like I feel
likewise.
we have a good complementary energies.
Yeah, true. Those skill sets are very complementary when it comes to what if I miss this, you're like, oh, this is something that you might have missed. If you miss that, I come in. Yeah. But I'm really glad that I met you because your story is a story which is going to inspire more people out there to take up therapy because your life journey has been so unique, so different. So thank you for coming to the podcast. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for being so open about it because I know like this is again about letting those walls or barriers down and opening up, which not just helps other people but makes us feel more empowered ourselves. I can speak openly about it and then people just take inspiration from that. So you're definitely an inspiration for others. So thank you for accepting the invite. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's been a
Thank you
pleasure.
for inviting me as well, for allowing me to tell that story. So thank you for that as well. I'm very glad that we did this finally.
Thank you for watching the episode till the end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube or if you're listening to this episode on Spotify. And we will be back again with another meaningful and thoughtful episode soon.